What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands On channel. I wish I had some bright and optimistic news to share with you guys today, but there doesn't seem to be very much of that going around. And, you know, I often hesitate to put news like this out there because, you know, it's just probably going to bum you out. So I'll be honest with you. If you're one of these people that are sensitive to the current events that are going on right now, this stuff very well may depress you. My wife and I were talking about it, and in fact, she was the one that clued me into what was actually going on. She told me the other day, we were talking, and I was telling her, I'm like, you know, it's just ups and downs for me here lately. I'm like, I'm up and I'm optimistic and I try to do my projects and stuff like this. And then, you know, I read the news, I see what's going on around the world. I look at my savings account dwindling. I look at my buying power dwindling. I look at inflation. I look at all these things that the mainstream media refuses to acknowledge, right? And it's depressing as hell. I mean, so I want to give you a warning right now. This news we're about to get into is pretty damn depressing. It's just more icing on the cake if you know what's coming and what the globalist plan, you know, for world domination, the New World Order, all that crap. It's all coming to a head. And I want to read some of these articles with you guys. But yeah, my wife pointed out, she was like, you know what it is? You're and me, we're both in a state of mourning, you know, like, you know, the 5 levels of mourning or whatever it is, you know, and from day to day, you know, I'm mourning the loss of the nation that I love, that I grew up in, that I owe my entire life to, my liberty. Everything that I value and cherish in this world is under threat right now. And so it's sort of like watching a dear, close, wise family member being denied proper health care. So let's say your Uncle Jim or somebody was one of the best people you've ever known, very knowledgeable about world events, all this stuff, a great person, a person you might admire and look up to. They're in the hospital. You know they've got like cancer of some kind, right? And all they have to do is go in there and cut the cancer out, but the doctors refuse to do it for whatever reason. And you're watching your dearly beloved uncle perish slowly under the system, you know, using the rules that have been put into place and circumventing our actual liberty. But anyway, mini rant concluded. That's why I haven't been making as much content here lately. As I'll be honest with you, there are many days I can't turn the camera on because I'm too damn depressed about what's going on in my country, wondering, am I ever going to be able to fulfill my dreams of having my, you know, 100-acre homestead and being over there living off the land and, you know, living as close to self-reliance and self-sufficiency as I possibly can. I don't know anymore, guys. And all of those things are up in the air right now. And I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. Sort of like, you know, Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole is the way it feels all the time. So anyway, that's enough of an intro. Hopefully a lot of the people that, you know, have ADD or whatever, short attention spans, they've already left. So sayonara. Now for the rest of you guys that are willing to face the hard truths that we need to face. We need to be able to face, as watchdogs, we need to be able to face these things and have a finger in the wind and know which way the wind's blowing so that when SHTF does come, we're not caught with our pants down. So let's get into these headlines that are, I mean, I can't imagine going back in time 10 years ago and telling myself any of these headlines. They should be blowing your mind every day, but they don't. The reason why they don't is because the media, for one, the mainstream media doesn't even talk about this kind of stuff. And for two, everything is so overly sensationalized that it's hard to tell what to be, you know, upset about. This is something you should be paying attention to and be upset about. Nuclear threat. Russia will drop entire arsenal on London, Washington, D.C. if it doesn't win the Ukrainian war. So a top Putin ally warned the West of striving for a Ukrainian victory, warning that it would lead to nuclear strikes on Kiev, Berlin, London, Washington, I'm assuming they mean Washington, D.C., as well as an apocalyptic civil war in Russia with tens of millions of dead people. I mean, you know, and I'm so sick of this. I saw somebody that I follow on YouTube the other day. They pointed out something incredibly obvious, but I hadn't really thought about it. But they were talking about why is the Western media demoralizing and dehumanizing the Russians? I mean, it's pretty obvious why. we do this every single time. The Western media, you know, the biggest arm of the globalist elite cabal propaganda machine that there is, it has been totally overtaken by the globalist agenda. No doubt about it. The MSM is completely untrustworthy. Everything they say is damn near the opposite. So they're not talking about this. You have to find this on places like Breitbart and Gateway Pundit and, you know, Zero Hedge and places like that that dare talk about the actual things that these people are saying. And, you know, this guy has warned, you know, I can't remember his name, Medvedev or something like that. He has warned several times that they're going to use nukes. It's not Putin coming out and saying it. It's this other guy, his underling, you know. And I believe this guy was like prime minister at one time. So he's not somebody that you should take lightly when they're saying this sort of stuff. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised nukes haven't been used yet. There have been several lines drawn in the sand by Russia so far, and they say things like, oh, if you use these NATO weapons and attack us with NATO weapons and NATO troops, then we're going to use nukes. We're going to defend ourselves. You know, they say if we try to come in and overthrow the Russian government in the same way that we've done in multiple, countless other nations around the world, playing politics and putting our puppets in charge, you know, the rest of the world is starting to wake up to this stuff, and they're sick and tired of it. And, you know, Russia is still a superpower, for now anyway. And they got a lot of nukes. They got a lot more nukes than we got. They got bigger nukes. Now, a lot of people argue that are in, you know, high positions of intelligence operations inside the United States. They argue that, oh, well, you know, a lot of Russia's nukes won't work. But it only takes one or two Tsar bombas to level an entire metro area. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty big deal. I think the mainstream media ought to be talking about this. They ought to be saying, hey, is this guy Medvedev or whatever, is he a credible person to listen to, or should we ignore this? They should have real debates. We don't have that anymore. We don't have it. It's gone. It's been stripped away from us. You know, one of our most fundamental overlooked rights that's clearly stated in the First Amendment is we have the right to a free press. Where's the free press? I guess, honestly, I didn't ask for it, but I guess it's people like me. I guess it's people like Canadian Prepper. And let me tell you something. I've run Nate down a little bit, just the way he over-sensationalizes stuff over at the Canadian Prepper. But I've got to give him credit and give him a hat tip, because the dude has been doing phenomenal reporting about this World War III crap that's going on that no one else wants to talk about. He's one of the most trustworthy people as far as current events that are actually taking place. And, you know, who did the Houthis bomb today, whatever, that kind of stuff. You can find it over there on Canadian Prepper. So he's, in my opinion, he's done a lot of really good work. Yeah, he over-sensationalizes stuff. Yeah, he's always trying to sell you his products at the end of the video or whatever, or in the middle of the video. Yeah, he stuffs them full of commercials and stuff like this. There's a lot of things to criticize, but the guy is doing the hard stuff that no one else wants to do. And I'm honestly surprised that YouTube has allowed him to continue to have the reach that he's had. Because a lot of other people that start talking about serious issues, they get shadow banned. Now, Canadian Prepper has taken a very middle-of-the-road stance, and I think that's the only reason he gets away with it. And if you lean right at all, even slightly right, you're going to get shadow banned. So be prepared for that. Anyway, next headline. I mean, I don't know. Nuclear war, big deal to me. I mean, I'm worried about it. I don't want my family getting nuked. I don't want the United States getting nuked. I don't even want, even though it's the swamp, I don't even want Washington, D.C. getting nuked. That's not the way we solve our problems. And, I mean, there is still the threat of a global world-ending event, nuclear event, that, at least in the northern hemisphere, would probably wipe out life for, you know, I don't know, 1,000 years, 5,000 years, who the hell knows how long it would take for the Earth to recover from a massive, full-scale thermonuclear warfare event. I think cooler heads should be prevailing right now, and we should be talking to people, even if it's uncomfortable, like Putin and like Zelensky, and trying to make some sort of an agreement where we can be like, okay, hey, yeah, okay, some of these people in these northern regions of Ukraine are pro-Russian and they want to go back with Russia, so we're gonna concede, we're gonna let you guys have this part, and because they've already claimed it. Donetsk and, you know, several of these places that I can't pronounce the names of. They've claimed this land as part of Russia. And so, is that right or is it wrong? I don't know. I don't want to get into that debate because that opens up a can of worms that goes back so far. I mean, you know, Putin in his interview with Tucker went back to like the 9th or 10th century or something like that. And I don't have time to do that in this video, but I will tell you this. The United States of America definitely has blood all over our hands directly tied to Victoria Nuland, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden during the Maidan Revolution of 2014 that was funded by people like George Soros. So if we want to start fixing problems in this world, in our own country, the first thing we need to do is go down the list of people like George Soros and Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates and all these other people with globalist agendas, and we need to tell them that your money is no longer going to be used or accepted or you're not going to be allowed to overthrow our country from within through all of your little shadowy, you know, businesses and all your little different puppet businesses like Soros has. You know, he has, I don't know, probably thousands of different business names that he can just funnel this money to one different Congress member to the next, to one different presidential candidate to the next, to overthrowing a country over here. I mean, the guy is just pure evil, Soros. And he's definitely on the same level as Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates and, you know, all of these people. All of these people. We have to kick the money out of our politics and the control, this corporate control, this corporate fascism that's going on in our country right now, corporatism, whatever you want to call it, that has to be retracted and taken away and erased. And it has to go back to we the people of the United States. So anyway, moving on. World War III watch. The Houthis sink a British ship in the Red Sea, shoot down U.S. Reaper drone, attack 2 U.S. ships in Gulf of Aden. And so the Iran-backed Houthis sank a British ship in the Red Sea on Monday and attacked 2 U.S. ships in the Gulf of Aden. The U.S. is also investigating a U.S. Reaper drone that crashed in Yemen on Monday. A spokesman for the Houthis claimed the $30 million unmanned U.S. drone, Reaper drone, was shot down with a suitable missile. Here's the deal. This is a battle. War is always a battle of economics. So the Houthis, you know, they're ragtag, they're like a militia or, you know, something like that, you know, a mercenary army or whatever you say. These people are not regular military. They have an advantage because they have a whole bunch of cheap, you know, Russian, North Korean, Chinese weapons to choose from, Iranian, whatever. They can get their hands on not very highly sophisticated, but very effective, you know, weapons platforms. The United States has to spend $30 million to you know, compared to an RPG or some other, you know, I don't know what they're spending. You know, maybe they're spending probably not even $1 million, to be honest with you, on these drones that they're weaponizing and sending out. I mean, it's a new type of warfare. We're in the drone wars now. I mean, where these people, not only in the Middle Eastern crisis that's going on and developing and unfolding on a daily basis and getting worse and worse and worse because of meddling, partly because the United States is sticking its nose in a business where it doesn't belong. Over and over and over again, we do the same thing. You know what that's called? That's the definition of insanity. We're expecting different results. We do the same bullcrap, you know, led by the CIA and these other clandestine organizations that, in my opinion, have grown too big for their britches. And it's time that somebody gets in there and pull their reins and say, wait a minute, you're violating rights. You're violating, you know, the constitutional rights that are granted by the Bill of Rights. And you're going to be reeled in and put into check. And if you can't be put into check, you will be, you know, dismantled and, you know, whatever, defunded, whatever we have to do. There are several different agencies like that in this United States that need to go, just completely vanish. And if they want to rebuild something else, you know, that's pro-American and pro-liberty and pro-United States Constitution, then we can talk about that. But these people that have been running the CIA for years always, and I'm not saying that, the normal run-of-the-mill CIA operative that works for the CIA, there's probably a lot of patriots that work for the CIA, but the upper echelon, the upper brass, have a pattern of meddling, sticking their nose in business that doesn't belong, and getting us involved in massive wars. So in my opinion, the CIA is the head of the military-industrial complex. And I mean, I don't know. What are you going to do with that? What can people do to stop that? I really don't know, other than top-down control, like I said, jerking the chain and saying, no, you're not going to do this anymore because you're violating people's civil rights. Anyway, moving on. This guy, Leo Hohmann, there's another threat we face right here, and this is a big one. The Second American Civil War is starting, this guy, Leo Hohmann, says. So it doesn't take a brilliant analytical mind to discern that the American society is losing its rudder, and I would argue we've lost our rudder. We're like a Roomba robot that's banging against the wall like on Idiocracy and can't fix its, can't correct its course. We're like Joe Biden when he's trying to run off the stage, running away from the press's questions. He can't find the exit. Jill has to come out and hold his hand, or they have to point to the way he's supposed to go because he's that lost. That's a very good visual image of what the United States current leadership is like. So we're rudderless. And powerful forces are seeking to divide us at a critical juncture, provoking us into a civil war. And I've often wondered, when I see all this civil war talk on YouTube, I've often wondered, where does this come from? Who's the source behind this? Especially people that seem to be very pro-Civil War. And I wouldn't put it past the Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans, any of our, the Iranians, heck, all the people that they've allowed to sneak up through the southern border. When Biden invited them in, any one of those people could set this thing off. And they could do it in a false flag sort of way where it looks like it's, right-wing extremist patriots that are down there starting the Civil War, when in reality it's, some of their illegal alien army that they've put together for this purpose, creating a false flag. I'm really worried that we're going to see false flags here in 2024 leading up to the election. So after decades of ideological attacks on our gatekeeping institutions by the globalists with no allegiance to this country, America's sense of identity and purpose is dangerously close to dead. Yeah, I agree with that. A country without a cohesive identity is a country ripe for manipulation, and I totally agree with that. Division, and ultimately war among its factions. And that's, I think, what they're trying to do. They're trying to get us to the point where we're so divided that we fight it out, and the United States destroys itself completely from within, allowing foreign interests to come in. The Chinese may take half the United States, the Russians may take some, the Iranians may take some. I think that's what they'd like to see. And when I say they, I mean the globalist New World Order, cabal of elitists that are, going to Davos all the time and stuff like that. People like Klaus Schwab, people like George Soros, people like that want to undermine our system. In my opinion, they're working for Satan. Whether they know it or not, they're working for the evil one. When entities feel their power slipping, which I believe they do, that is when they adopt a burn it all down mentality. Gaslighting in the media, finger pointing, and scapegoating all play into this strategy. And we've seen plenty of that over the last few years, haven't we? Yeah, we certainly have. But it's not just America, it's Western civilization as a whole that is withering. And it's not organic. It's not naturally doing it. It's happening because of outside forces putting pressure on what they have studied to be our weak links. The open border system. It reminds me of, I believe it was Saul Alinsky's plan of overwhelm the system, things like that. The welfare system, the Social Security system, any one of these social programs are at the point of insolvency because they've been overwhelmed, overburdened. So, and it's not just America, it's everywhere. I heard that Britain, I think it was, announced that they're actually officially in recession now. That's a big deal. That's going to affect us. We're going to eventually have to admit it here. Again, when our mainstream media finally admits that, it'll be way too late for you to do anything about it. But, if you tune into the Hands On channel, maybe you'll have a heads up on this thing. So listen to this one. If you don't think they're pushing for civil war, even at the highest offices in the land, I think you might change your mind after you hear this headline. Exclusive. Pentagon forces Army Reserve troops in Midwest to conduct mock exercises with Governor Abbott's drowning migrants in the Rio Grande as a Texas soldier shooting swimming migrants, yelling, "America first," a violation of the Hatch Act. So when I saw this a few days ago, I think when I saw this, I don't know, maybe a week ago, I was like, this is it. This is it. If you want the proof that people in the highest offices in the Pentagon are in cahoots with the deep state, this is it. At the last minute, they called in. This wasn't planned out for months and months and months. At the last freaking minute, the Pentagon called in and updated this mission, this training mission that they were going to do. They changed everything about the conditions of this training exercise. So let me get into this. I think this is going to blow your mind. On Saturday, February 3rd, a group of Midwest-based U.S. Army Reserve legal offices, referred to as LODs, took part in a weekend drill conducted remotely over Microsoft Teams. So there's the Bill Gates connection. Of course, he no longer owns it, but I guarantee you he might as well. Just prior to this drill, commanders of these units were passed a legal scenario that they were told to war game with their reserve legal officers, the JAGs. It was an unscheduled interruption at the last minute and not pre-planned or released. The leadership felt blindsided by it during a Teams call. They were what appeared to be high-ranking personnel from the Pentagon issuing a new drill fact scenario and monitoring the team's call in the background. So all of a sudden, on February 3rd, they get a call. They're about to do a training exercise. They have everything worked out, the scenario worked out of what they're going to do, right? All of a sudden, at the last freaking minute, the Pentagon calls them and says, hey, we're changing the drill. The new drill is this. So this scenario that was passed out at the last minute was involved, as a fact of pattern, the Biden administration nationalizing the Texas National Guard members sent by Governor Greg Abbott to the Texas southern border with Mexico. So that's the first part of this scenario. Biden makes a decree, whatever, executive order, whatever the hell he has to do, and he says, okay, I'm nationalizing the Texas Guard. So that's going to create a big problem, right? Because Governor Abbott is currently using the Texas National Guard down there to defend the border, doing the job that the Biden administration refuses to do. Not only do they refuse to do it, they've actually got Border Patrol agents aiding in the invasion that's taking place on our southern border. So that's kind of a big deal. So the facts provided involved Governor Abbott being responsible for allowing migrants to drown, or words to that effect in the Rio Grande. I don't know. Is it Rio Grande, Rio Grande? I've always called it Rio Grande, but now all of a sudden when I read it, I'm calling it Rio Grande because it has an E at the end of it. But anyway, after setting up barriers and not leading any aid to these dying migrants. So basically the scenario is sort of like what we saw in the beginning stages of this. The Biden administration was accusing Abbott of not allowing Border Patrol to come in there and help these poor, drowning migrants that are just, all they want to do is get here and claim asylum, man. That's all they want to do. Take your job. That's all. Take your resources. Take your tax money, right? That's all they want to do. They're just like you. No. Everything about the current situation that Biden has implemented, it's basically a false amnesty deal. These people will tell you candidly that they're fleeing for economic reasons or whatever. They just want a better opportunity in America. That is not one of the qualifiers that allows you to seek asylum in the United States. And in the past, they had the Remain in Mexico policy under Trump, where these asylum seekers had to be approved, right? We make you wait there until you're approved to come here. Biden has flipped it on its head. He got rid of Remain in Mexico, and now it's come here. We'll see you in like 2030, 2035 for your hearing on whether you're actually a real asylum seeker or not. See, they're sneaking them in under the false premise of asylum seekers, saying, oh, it's climate change. Oh, it's war. It's it's all this stuff. When in 99% of the cases, these are just people taking advantage of the system, and they've been instructed by, non-governmental organizations south of the border exactly what to say to get in, and handed a freaking $5,000 debit card and a cell phone. I mean, and then when they get in here, they're given plane tickets and bus tickets to wherever the hell they want to go. I mean, this is unfucking believable that this is being allowed to happen. I know some people don't like it when I drop the F-bomb, and I'm sorry, this is serious stuff. If you're listening to stuff about civil war and nuclear war and your kids can overhear this, then you're making a big mistake. They don't need to be worried about this kind of stuff. This is for adults only. Anyway, so moving on. So listen to this next part. This is where it gets real juicy. In one part of the given fact pattern, a U.S. Army Reserve sergeant was sitting in a vehicle watching the migrants come across the Rio Grande after taking over. And a Texas National Guard member steps up behind the vehicle and begins shooting and killing a family of migrants swimming across the river, all while yelling, "America first." So, I mean, they have made this political on every single level. So the fake scenario, there's an Army reservist sitting there in his car. He's talking about how he can't wait to get off work and go home for the weekend, ride around in his boat and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden he sees these migrants, just poor migrants trying to come across the border. And then this mean MAGA Republican National Guard member steps up and starts yelling "America first" as he blows these poor innocent migrants to kingdom come. Kills them dead as they're trying to swim across the river. That's the scenario these guys created. That should shock you. That should alarm you that the Pentagon not only sent this thing out, but it's highly illegal what they did. Let me read you what this next thing says. This is the standard rules for these scenarios. Army drills, per the training standards, are to be fictional, apolitical scenarios involving fictional countries, enemies, and people. American citizens are never mentioned in these scenarios. In this case, all of these rules were broken. And they'll probably get away with it because they control the Department of Justice. The scenario was blatantly and openly political, obviously, naming the Biden administration by name as the heroic protectors of human rights, and listing an evil Governor Greg Abbott by name, as well as an out-of-control criminal Texas National Guard soldier who yells "America first" while shooting defenseless Mexicans swimming across the Rio Grande. So they want civil war, guys. I think they want to destroy the country, guys. They want to destroy the republic. They've realized after trying to implement communism, piecemeal, a little piece here, a little piece there, it's not working fast enough for their pleasure. They want full-blown totalitarian rule. They want no constitution, no Bill of Rights. They want full civil war, a bloody civil war. And the reason they want it is because their Chinese buddies and their, other communist buddies from around the world, the globalists and stuff like that, who want global communism, they know that the United States is the only reason they can't do it right now. And so they want to destroy the U.S. at all costs by any means necessary. I don't believe there's even 81 million of them here in the United States. I think their numbers are much, much smaller than that. The people that really want to destroy the country, I think, realistically, it's probably 20%, maybe 10 to 20% is my guess of the people that are out there with this globalist ideology. But here's the trouble. They're in all the highest offices of the land. They are the deep state. And, the only way I can say or see one man saving us from this, it's Jesus Christ coming back and straightening things out, like they say in Revelations. So, guys, things are not looking good. And, If you don't hear from me for a week or so, it might be that I got banned. It might be that I got shadow banned, whatever. Go check the channel out. But it might just be because I'm too damn depressed to talk about this stuff. I'm in mourning watching my great nation being destroyed from within, and no one seems to care. That's the worst part about it. We're all so drunk on comfort and so drunk on the Super Bowl crap. I mean, I didn't watch the Super Bowl. You know, I don't watch that crap. You know, I don't watch sports ball. I don't need that crap in my life as a distraction. There's too many real world events that are happening right now, real world scenarios that keep me up at night and probably should keep a lot of you up at night. And we ought to be taking the right kind of peaceful political action to make sure this is never allowed to happen again. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on the news for today. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know what you think about all this. How likely is it that we get involved in a full-scale thermonuclear warfare? How likely is it, do you think, that we get involved in some sort of civil war and the United States breaks apart and then all these other nations come in and fill up that vacuum? I think it's pretty damn likely. It's certainly more likely than it was in the 90s when I was a kid growing up. Unfreaking believable, you know, and it's such a short time. We're on the verge of World War III in what, 3 years under Biden. Will we survive to the end of 2024? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that, but all I can tell you is in these trying times that when it gets this bad, what I do personally is I turn to my Savior, Jesus Christ. You know, I look to Him for answers. I pray for the right kind of guidance. I pray that I'll be able to discern between the things that I have no control over and the things that I do have control over. And I tend to focus on things that I do have control over in my own life and trying to prepare myself and my family for what I believe is now inevitable. It's probably unavoidable. You know, I don't think this election in 2024 is going to go off without a hitch. I don't think the reins of power are going to be handed over peacefully, even if it does. I mean, all the ingredients are in the big Civil War stew pot right now, and they're stewing and percolating. And kind of like that line from V for Vendetta. You know, eventually somebody did the wrong thing. They eventually pushed it just a little bit too far. And when that happens, all hell is going to break loose. So be prepared. Be prepared in every single way, mentally, spiritually, and physically, because what's about to come, we've never seen before. And so anyway, enough for me for today. I appreciate you guys tuning in, sticking with the video. Hit me up in the comments. I'd love to continue this discussion. As always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too.